Rediscovering Gita for the Modern World by Shrikant Soman. Based on Essays on Gita by Sri Aurobindo. Second Series, Part 1. The Synthesis of Works, Love and Knowledge. Chapter 2 of Second Series, The Synthesis of Devotion and Knowledge. Continued from the previous episode 99, the Gita's practical application of its metaphysical truths. Current episode 100. From Asuric nature to divine knowledge. The ascent from evil to divine devotion. Beyond virtue, the path to the Godhead. This passage from the Bhagavad Gita explains why evil-doers fail to reach the divine and outlines the necessary progression from a life of vice to one of virtue and ultimately to a state beyond virtue. It highlights how the path to divine realization requires transcending the ego, embracing a higher nature, and culminating in devotion to the Supreme Being. Key takeaways. The evildoer is trapped by their ego. An evildoer's mind is a slave to desires, and their ego, which is their real God, prevents them from recognizing the divine within themselves and the world. A virtuous life is a necessary step, but not the final goal. While virtue purifies the nature and helps a person overcome the confusion of sin, the ethical person is still bound by the dualities of their lower nature. One must transcend virtue to reach the divine. True spiritual freedom comes from moving beyond ethical rules, leaving behind the need for personal good, and acting from one's spiritual nature by the will of the divine. The sattvic ego is the easiest to transcend. The passage explains that while it is difficult to overcome the crude ego of a rajasic or tamasic nature, a sattvic person, by constantly aspiring upward, purifies their nature and makes it easier to transcend. Bhakti or devotion is a necessary element of the path. The passage concludes by revealing the final component for the karma yogin, one who practices yoga of action, a love and adoration for the highest, which unites knowledge and works in a spiritual sacrifice to the Lord. The problem of the evildoer. The Purushottama says that evildoers do not reach him, they are bewildered and low on the human scale. Their knowledge has been stolen by Maya. They follow the nature of the Asura, demon. This bewilderment is caused by the deceiving ego. The evildoer wants to satisfy his ego above all else. His ego is his real God. His mind and will are slaves to his desires. He only sees his lower nature. He doesn't see his supreme self. He doesn't see the divine within himself or in the world. He lives only for his ego and desires. To serve the ego without a higher aspiration is the mind of an asura. The path of virtue. The first step upward is to aspire to a higher nature and law. One must obey a better rule than desire. One must worship a nobler God than the ego. One must become a right thinker and doer. But this is not enough. Even the sattvic person is subject to the gunas. He is still controlled by likes and dislikes. He moves within the circle of nature's forms. He does not have the highest integral knowledge. Still, by constantly aspiring upward, he gets rid of the confusion of sin. Sin comes from rajasic desire and passion. He acquires a purified nature. This nature is capable of being freed from the rule of the three gunas. Man cannot reach the highest by virtue alone, but virtue gives him the initial capacity to attain it. It is hard to get rid of the crude rajasic or tamasic ego. The sattvic ego is less difficult. When it becomes subtle and enlightened, it is easy to transcend. Beyond virtue to the divine. First, a person must become ethical. Then he must rise beyond ethical rules. He must reach the light, power and vastness of his spiritual nature. There he gets beyond the grip of dualities and delusion. He no longer seeks personal good or pleasure. He is not affected by suffering or pain. He no longer says, I am virtuous or I am sinful. Instead, he acts in his high spiritual nature by the divine's will. He acts for the good of all. We have already seen that self-knowledge and equality are necessary. They reconcile knowledge and works. But the Gita now adds another great need for the karma yogin. He must have not only knowledge and works but also bhakti, devotion. He needs love and adoration for the highest. This need was prepared earlier. The teacher said, all works should be a sacrifice to the Lord. It was implied that work should be given to the being from whom all will and power originate. What was implied is now made clear. We can now see the Gita's full purpose.